So we can start the meeting with the addition to the agenda, or we could do introductions, I guess. I always forget that. So we can do introductions first, I guess. And I'm Lisa Barron, the chair of the trustees, and I don't know what else to say, but I'll pass it on to Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer Fels. I'm from North Bennington.
Rick? Oh, you're on mute. Oh, sorry, Rick. I'll pass you by for now if you're having issues. Linda, why don't you go?
Sure. I'm Linda Sarnioki. I'm from Weston. I'm on the library board there. Here.
And Glenn? Oh.
Glenn McCrae from Burlington.
And Adrian, I know you were right in front of me, but I kept looking all around. Adrian.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Adrian Katz Wilson, Vice Chair, part of the Friends of the Dorothy Alling Memorial Library, and also tomorrow will be the school librarian for the day at an elementary school nearby, taking the day off to do some community service and get some books into kids' hands. Can't wait.
Fun.
Okay. Rick, are you able to? No, you're still on mute.
There. I'm unmuted. Yes.
Gotcha.
Hi, I'm Rick Bates. I'm from Weathersfield, involved in our library down here.
Great. I'll pass it on to you, Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Delnau, go by Kathy. I am the state librarian and the commissioner of the Vermont Department of Libraries. And I have no idea why there's an echo on just my line. I'm gonna call on folks in the Department of Libraries to just come on screen for a second and say who you are. Jeanette Schaefer.
Good morning, Jeanette Schaefer. I'm the Assistant State Librarian for Library Advancement, and I will pass it on to Karen.
Good morning, Karen Gravlin. I am the Director of Inclusive Services in the Able Library.
Let's hear from Lauren.
Hi there, I'm Lauren Kelly, a consultant for technical services here at the Department of Libraries.
Jonathan?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Clark. I am the Youth Services Consultant at the Department of Libraries.
And Matt.
Hello, I'm Matt. I'm the Contracts and Grants Administrator.
Thanks. Josh.
Hi all, I'm Josh Muse and I'm the consultant for library technology, and I'm backlit.
Carolyn.
Good morning, everyone. Carolyn Mark. I'm the Director of Interlibrary Loan and Government Services at the Department of Libraries.
Jess.
Everything working. Hi, I'm Jess Leal. I am the Principal Assistant at the Department of Libraries.
Thank you. And I've saved Justina for last. Justina's our newest staff member here at the department. Justina, are you able to come on screen for a sec?
Yeah, hi there. My name is Justina, and I'm the program technician over at the Able Library.
Awesome. Welcome.
think that's all of us on the department side.
Okay.
Wow, the echo went away, Kathy, like magic.
Yeah, well, Jeanette was introducing herself. I unplugged things. So it was a technical error on my part somehow.
Oh, you unplugged the right things. This is so good. Sometimes plugging the wrong thing makes things unnecessarily complicated.
For sure. Okay, so we'll move on to additions to the agenda, and I'd like to add the topic revisions to the bylaws as agenda item 3 to forward our discussion about changing the cadence of our meetings by a month. And we can go into more detail about that. So agenda item
So this is in
3.
place of public comment 3, because right now on the
Maybe,
meeting agenda, it's
yeah,
becomes
I was
4.
just looking. Yeah, I think let's do it right after public comment. So we'll make it item 4, and then everything else can just get moved down one. My gosh, and I feel like I don't know if we need to vote on that or not, and that makes me feel really inadequate. Maybe we don't need to vote on adding something to the agenda. I don't know.
So I think we have to approve the agenda as amended, period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So
Brian.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, do you have a
Second.
second? Okay,
Second.
Jennifer, thank you. All right, is there any discussion about that? I'm just gonna add revision to the bylaws to item 4 and move everything down one. Okay, no discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, looks like that motion passed. All right then, thank you. So we can move on to public comment, which I don't think there's any members of the public here, but we'll give it a minute. Okay. No public comment. All right, so this is our item that we just added. Oh shoot, my phone just went dead. Kathy, do you mind reading the new verbiage?
Not at all, Lisa. I'll also share my screen so that
Oh,
it's
thank you.
presented in writing,
That's
because that is something that I think is required. So hang on for just 1 second while I queue it up. So the proposed change to the bylaws that the board has been discussing, bump up can you all see the bylaws document?
Yes.
The proposed change would be to Article 5 of the Board of Libraries' current bylaws. In Article 5, in Section 1, it covers regular meetings. And for some time,
Kathy, this is Article 4, not Article 5.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for the
I just
help.
wanted to have that correct for the
Yes,
recording.
please. I
Sorry to
don't
interrupt.
usually mess up my Roman numerals. I'm sort of embarrassed. Article 4, meetings, notices, and committees. Thank you, Linda. Section 1, regular meetings. The board has been discussing the idea that the department had brought to you some time ago to move the regular meetings to the second Tuesday of the second month of each quarter. So those would be changing the January meeting to the February meeting, changing the April meeting to May, and changing the July meeting to August, changing the October meeting to November. The department had requested that because a lot of times we have quite a busy time at the half year and at the end of year with reporting. And a lot of documents and a lot of materials are due from the department to the state or to the federal funders at that time. So that would be helpful. So that is what this pretty minimal bylaws amendment would affect. My understanding is that to make an amendment to the bylaws, it needs to be presented in writing, and I hope that this suffices, that it is in writing and it's presented at a regular meeting, and then it could be voted on at the next regular meeting if you all decided that you wanted to pursue that. And just a note, there was some discussion about could it be much more general in the bylaws themselves? I would recommend against that. I would recommend that we keep the meeting schedule in the bylaws because the meeting schedule has been called out in a similar manner in the bylaws since our records of the bylaws go back, so back to the 80s. And that means that we don't have to do anything procedural, and we don't have to remember, you don't have to remember to do anything procedural at the annual meeting. It also means that people can plan for the upcoming year as well. You can always plan that the regular meetings will be at a certain time unless they're canceled or replaced by a special meeting. So there's no extra noticing required. My understanding is that this bylaws statement, the statement of the regular meetings in the bylaws doesn't require any extra noticing and makes it easier for board members to plan, for the public to plan, and for the department to plan. But I will leave it up to you all to discuss your thoughts on that.
You guys have any questions? Kathy and I went over this somewhat, and and I agree with her that this makes it simpler as far as us trying to, every February to decide on what our meetings are going to be for the rest of the year and have that be something we need to do every year instead just having them like we have them now in the bylaws. I think that makes it much simpler.
I think this makes sense. If it's easier on the department, it certainly doesn't matter to us if we meet at the beginning of the quarter or a month into the quarter, I don't think. We can always have a special meeting if there's a reason to meet earlier for some decision that has to be made, but we don't make any decisions. So I don't see that that hampers us.
Well, for geographic naming, that might be a little bit different for that role.
Right, but we can always
the
have a special
advisory
meeting. Yeah, right. We can always have a special meeting for geographic naming if we need to. Thank you, Adrian, you're right.
Welcome. Thanks for taking in the feedback.
Can I suggest, and maybe this just extends it 3 meetings later, but we used to meet regularly until the pandemic. We used to meet at a different library around the state, which was really kind of fun to see what different libraries were and meet some people at the libraries, and it gave us a sense of something other than our own libraries, as we're supposed to be the library commission. But so I'm wondering if we could change that last sentence. And again, Kathy, you know the procedures better than I for amending the bylaws, but could we add that at this point? Regular meetings of the board shall be held online with an option to attend on site at 60 Washington Street, Barre, Vermont, or at a designated library or at another library in the state. Could we add that or clause or phrase at the end of this sentence?
I think that when we're saying where the regular meetings are held, that we need to have one specific location. And that when we meet at other locations For example, last year we met in Waterbury and then journeyed on to other libraries in the vicinity. We have to notice that as a special meeting. So the physical location for on-site attendance has to be specified. If you all met at the same 4 libraries each time, they could each be called out here, associated with the specific months, but because the location has changed, because the location that you're talking about might change, Linda, I think we would probably be best served to just leave it at 60 Washington Street. The other thing is when we met in Waterbury, the on-site attendance is then in Waterbury, not here. So we don't have enough staff to kind of set up both spots at once. So there's a little bit of a trick to that.
Well, so what enabled us to do it previously? What did the bylaws say previously that enabled us to do it regularly 3 or 5 years ago?
I'm not sure that they did allow that. We can look at the bylaws from the past.
We just did it.
That I think you may have just done it. And the thing to remember is that open meeting law has changed somewhat in that period of time, Linda. So it could be that
that's right.
What you did before might be different. But I remember when I joined the department as the state librarian, the bylaws actually said that you met at mid-state before they were revised in 2023. And all of the past bylaws can be found online. So I think I'm not sure that the bylaws completely captured the reality of where the meetings took place.
Okay, that's fine. Then I withdraw my suggestion and perhaps we could just keep it in mind as a possibility for the future, Lisa, that it's sort of fun to meet at a different library, as it was fun. I wasn't able to go to the Waterbury meeting, but it's interesting to go to a different library. Maybe we could see it as a possibility for the future, understanding that it's complicated to do that.
No, I agree with you. I was just looking back while you were talking. I saw one from 2009 that said that the meeting was quarterly at the Mid-State Library in Berlin unless otherwise noticed by the secretary. And, I think Kathy's right that the logistics of actually trying to add that into the bylaws is probably a little tricky, but also agree with you, Linda. I love going to different libraries. I hadn't been to Waterbury, and it was really exciting to go to the different libraries that we did go to that day, and I'd love to do that as often as we possibly can, which is probably once a year, but it would be nice.
Or it could be more. I echo that's a great idea to be able to tour around and see different libraries and learn more about them and being in situ. So it sounds like Section 3 special meetings, as noted, I believe, Kathy, that there is that option that we can have at any time, because it says written notice of the place, time and place and purpose of the meeting. So that might be that might be the way to go versus putting in the regular meetings in Section 1. But yes, mail to the members. So it does say here, mail to the members. Maybe that's something else we want to discuss at another time instead of like emailed or communicated or distributed, maybe the precise term. Just happened to notice that wasn't.
It's a good call out.
You could.
Glenn? Oh, you're on.
Yeah, I wasn't going to comment on the specificity issue, having written lots of bylaws for many different organizations and worked on this with the Secretary of State's office. I am still a proponent of generality, not specificity, because as I think we're observing right now, the more specific you get, the harder you have to go through a bylaw change before you can legally do something different. So I don't think there is any requirement in law that we have to say where the regular meetings are held, or that they are held online in addition to in person. Now we can make it a practice. You're going to have a set of practices that the commission sets in place, but then it can be changed without the having to go through the actual bylaw changes. You know, the bylaws are those kind of foundational guidelines, not the kind of day-to-day or even year-to-year management aspect of what an organization or a board or commission actually does. Um, so I will just again say generality I think is good. Practice is where you want to have guidelines that you establish by the commission for moving forward. But all that said, I'm not wedded to, you know, one or the other. Just that's my thought on that.
Kathy?
I appreciate the information, Glenn, that you just shared. And I think there's another way to approach this. The regular meeting schedule is currently in the bylaws. So changing that does require a revision of the bylaws to remove that. The public body could have a separate document that establishes its meetings, and that document goes forward in perpetuity until the board decides to make a change. That there is a way to do that because we did that with our working group public body. So we established a regular cadence of meetings and a regular location for them. So it's not necessarily the case that the bylaws need to be changed in such a way that you have to set up the next year's meeting every February meeting at the annual meeting. You don't necessarily have to include the bylaws in this annual meeting that takes place at the first regular meeting of the calendar year. You could simply change the section 1 to say that the board shall meet quarterly. The regular meetings of the board shall be held quarterly, period. And the regular meetings are held online with an option to attend here. And that's, you know, they do need, you could have or you could even say the regular meeting shall be held quarterly, period. And then all of the information about where the meetings will be held could either be done annually by the board, or the cadence could be set through a resolution to establish the regular meeting schedule and locations, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, that's what I would recommend is that the board have a guidance document outside of the bylaws that just gets reaffirmed at each annual meeting, saying we meet on the second Tuesday of prescribed months, that unless we are set up a different location, we would try to meet online and or at the general offices, but that can be changed with notice. And it just gives that flexibility to the board that says, well, I mean, it's like right now you're giving out millions of dollars in grants to different libraries. And I think it would actually be great for the board to be able to go to some of those libraries, would see that in action, because that's a really major feature of what the State Department is doing out there. But I agree. I think it would be good to have a document, a practice document that the board passes, that we just say that is our practice, unless it is specifically changed. And the specific change can then just be done by a simple vote action at any meeting during the year. And then public meeting law comes into place in terms of how we would have to notice. I mean, it's how we have to notice these meetings, even though they're in the bylaws. Just because they're in the bylaws doesn't mean we have to, we get around having to publicly notice the meetings.
Rick?
Well, if it's a regular meeting, you don't need to do the same noticing that you need to do for a special meeting though, Glenn. So putting once the regular meeting has been established, there's a different noticing process than if you had standalone meetings.
Right, but we wouldn't, I mean, if it's a regular meeting, it's a regular meeting, whether it's in the bylaws or not. And maybe I'm just probably making too much of this, and I apologize. So I have no objection to just putting in the bylaws as you had indicated, and I certainly think the meeting should accommodate the staffing schedule of the department, so that the department can fully participate and be prepared to, look for whatever guidance you want from the board. So.
Yeah, Rick?
Yes, I actually would like to join with Glenn in this this discussion. I think that when bylaws get down into the minutia of how things are done, things become cumbersome. If, for example, here we're not trying to do anything major. We're going to continue to meet 4 times a year. We're simply shifting it each meeting 1 month forward for the ease, for the convenience of the department, and to enable us to get more thorough information when it's collated. And I don't know that is something that we want to always have to go through 3 consecutive warned meetings or whatever. It's not necessary.
Okay. Adrian?
So I can appreciate the arguments for being general, and it seems like we're balancing it with so general, it's maybe there's flexibility or adaptability to needs or that sort of thing. That's in contrast to something else that's also, I think, is important, which is predictability, that could be very important, I think, for staff members, Department of Library staff, and also perhaps for us to plan our routine schedule. So it is nice to be able to identify at least quarterly, and months are helpful, but I understand the goal of saying just enough to provide that guideline and transparency, but also not getting so detailed that it's unworkable. But also we don't want to be so general that it's hard for the department to plan ahead. It's nice to know, okay, there's a meeting coming up, I can plan for it in advance. Having the flexibility to change that every January or February might be stressful. So some detail is helpful. And I think Jennifer also had a hand raised.
Yeah. Jennifer, you're on mute.
Sorry. I would agree with just stating quarterly meetings. I've seen that in many sets of bylaws on an annual basis. Whenever you set it, the first meeting of the year, the last meeting, whatever, you decide and you just set a schedule, and then you can work towards changing a schedule, to meet the needs of the group and the department. Once you box yourself into something, it requires a lot of work to change it once you set it in bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Kathy?
Thanks. One aspect that I do want to note, as far as the department and the planning that goes into things, and also the costs, to be frank, to the department. I think we're all aware that the costs to the department can be impactful of various things. And I'm going to share information later in the agenda about reimbursement costs. That includes travel reimbursement costs. When the department moves to other locations, it actually, and when there are special notices, like if the meeting changes 4 times, the activity comes with a cost. So there are reimbursements to staff for moving around. There can be fees charged by a library. We all enjoyed going to Waterbury, but I'm pretty sure that they charged us for the site because we're not a municipal entity in Waterbury. One would hope a library wouldn't do that, but they have a policy and they're implementing the policy, and the state would probably charge the Waterbury Public Library for hosting something at the state buildings in Waterbury. So I think, given the fact that the department is not experiencing a very large budget in the time that I've been here, I would like to encourage the board to conduct most of your meetings the way we have been conducting them. What I've seen is that we have really good attendance of board members, and there are no reimbursement costs associated with travel for either board members or department staff. Our department staff are all able to attend. I think it's actually working pretty well. I don't argue at all with the fact that it's really nice to convene together. I will say that we had come to a kind of agreement that we would do that in the summer meeting. And I was imagining that you would all convene in person and do a different county perhaps in the summer. But that also takes quite a bit of logistical planning on the department's side. So scheduling 4 different meetings in 4 different areas, coordinating those so that they don't fall in a different, I mean, I don't really know how to explain the complexity of the state calendar, but I will tell you that there have been times when I have to cancel everything because Capital for a Day is in a different county than the county I'm going to on a day I've already got 4 visits scheduled. So there are times that the physical presence is actually quite challenging, and it's hard to mobilize our staff to get someplace and to have the setups that we need. So I wanted to share that perspective and kind of echo Adrian's statements about the ease for the department.
Thanks, Kathy. Glenn?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think, so what all I am suggesting is that, yes, we meet quarterly. We have a procedure document instead of a bylaw document. Procedure document that states that we meet quarterly and those meetings are in February, blah, blah, blah. And we can even be that they are either at the state library offices or online. But that if we want to change, again, it gives us that flexible option without having to go through a bylaw amendment. So we have a procedural document that gives you that predictability. And that we then also make a statement that says if we are to do on-site meetings in exception to that, that they become special meetings. And then that again, says gives you the predictability, quarterly meetings, just like we're doing now. I agree because they're very information rich and we need that. And I think if we want that opportunity to be at another site for a very specific purpose, that we plan that as a special meeting. And then it doesn't necessarily mean the entire staff has to be there. You know, and it gives us them flexibility to become more informed, to take on the responsibilities that we have in terms of informing you as you require. So that's the simplest way, I guess I can state it, is we have we don't have to reinvent it every year. It would only be if there was a prevailing issue like there is now, like you brought up. January just doesn't work. And in 2 years, there could be some other docket that happens that says, oh, February doesn't work for some reason. And it'd be nice not to have this discussion in this way again, so that we can, oh, okay, we change the procedure as opposed to the bylaws to accommodate that.
Okay, Linda?
Yeah, I think, Glenn, I would like to suggest that perhaps you take a try at developing that procedures document. I was part of another organization I am part of another organization that has a policies and procedures document. And at one point it got so elaborate as to be just ridiculous. But it's a good idea, I think, to understand what the procedures are of an organization that may be apart from the bylaws. And so I wonder if you might take a try at developing that. There would be this point in it. I wonder if there's anything else in the bylaws that could use that kind of explanation of procedures. That said, I think we've talked about this a lot, and that perhaps we can leave it as the generality of quarterly. The regular meetings of the board shall be held quarterly, period, and return to this for a vote at our next meeting. Which then leaves the question of whether we want to do something with that word mailed in section 3.
Yeah. Okay. I agree, Linda. We have talked about this a lot. Kathy?
Yeah, I would just recommend that instead of a second document with procedures, which I've been advised to avoid, kind of shadow documents, with regard to the board and the naming, and it can get quite confusing to have lots of documents. I would recommend just the board could pass a resolution on its regular meeting schedule. That's what we've done previously with other public bodies. And if there's something else to pass a resolution about, then that can happen at a later time. But I would say that it's probably at this point the easiest path forward is to vote on including the language here, which is just the regular meetings of the board shall be held quarterly, and then a period. And then potentially saying communicated to the members, because that leaves it, we could say emailed as well, but I would recommend proposing those types of changes, having a vote on them at the next regular meeting in July, and then in July also bringing forward a resolution for the schedule of meetings.
I think that
So then we would do that resolution every year, Kathy?
No, you don't have to. You can have a resolution that this is when you meet and it just continues on like that. And then we could do you can do special meetings. We've been noticing, even if it's on the week of a regular meeting, our process has been to treat it like a special meeting for noticing purposes. Like when you met in Waterbury, we just noticed it as if it's a special meeting, even though it's at the regular meeting time.
Okay, Adrian?
Yeah. So the point that, so the recommendation from Kathy is an important one about to note it in the bylaws for transparency and to avoid those documents, so-called shadow documents, because that's not providing transparency to the public or whomever is looking at this document. So that's another reason why to look at that.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and just to clarify, for me, it's actually, I worry that we in the department will be confused by multiple documents. That has happened with, we saw that happening with the geographic naming, where we thought things were the procedure, but they were just, we thought things were the board's established procedure, but they weren't. So we had these two different paths developing.
Mhm. Okay, Jennifer?
Yes, for the bailed, highlighted there in yellow, section 3, you could say distributed.
Yeah.
That leaves
I
out
agree.
technology changes or whatever,
Yeah.
gives you more
Mhm.
flexibility. So meetings shall be
Mhm.
distributed to the members.
That
Yeah.
sounds good. Yes.
And that sounds good even for when we don't, or we're not required to distribute or whatever like, it's okay to over notice as well. I'd rather be on the side of providing,
Right.
more information than miss out. It's great to have the routine of that as well and to be able to share with anybody who could be interested, including the public.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. Rick?
Yes, I wanted also to jump in on mailed. I was going to suggest replacing it with sent. I think distributed is better. What I didn't like was the communicated, because that could be argued to mean that it actually, that the other person has acknowledged receipt of it, or has that.
Right.
Communicated sounds two-way.
Mhm.
And I think distributed to me is, that's probably the best term.
That's a good point, Rick. Thank you. I think I agree that distributed sounds pretty good. Okay, so
We
we're
use that term
gonna,
at the state.
oh, you do?
Yeah, the land
That's
use review board. Yeah. So
good. So we'll change this bylaw and revisit it in July to vote on it. We will say the regular meetings of the board shall be held quarterly. Period. Regular meetings of the board shall be held online with an option to attend on site at 60 Washington Street, Suite 2, Barry, Vermont. And then we'll change that word in section 3 from mailed to distributed, to make it more clear how people are receiving their information about special meetings. I don't think this is anything we need to vote on today. We're just kind of hammering out the verbiage, and then we'll vote on it in July. I'm thinking that's the case. So if there's anything else to
Just to
discuss.
clarify,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Lisa. Does this on the screen right now match what you've just discussed? So it's the regular meetings of the board shall be held quarterly, period. And then we're leaving this second line the same, or should that come out as, I would just want to check on whether this should also come out. Because the regular meeting schedule resolution could include the location.
I think as, it was pointed out, I think this is our part of our duty to the public. So having online, quarterly online meetings, regular, in a regular kind of set place kind of covers that. And I have no problem with saying, if we want to do additional special meetings, something we can take responsibility to make happen. But it gives us that flexibility on the timing of the regular meeting to be set by resolution as opposed to in the bylaws, which I think is adequate flexibility.
Okay. And then I changed mailed in section 3 to distributed based on what you all just said. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll post this right after this meeting on your website so that it's there, and we'll put this on the agenda for the July meeting.
Thanks a lot, Kathy. Okay, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, the approval of minutes for our February 10th, 2026 meeting. So if somebody would like to present a motion to approve those minutes. Nobody? Rick, I can't hear you, but you're raising your hand. Okay.
Yes,
So Rick,
yes, I will move that.
okay, thank you. Rick's moving to approve the minutes. We have a second? I don't know if anybody, if it's my computer or if nobody's going to second this motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Linda, thank you. Any discussion on these minutes? Okay.
I would like to
Lisa,
discuss.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
Oh, go ahead.
Just
Go ahead.
to clarify, this is the February 10th, 2026 that we're looking at. Okay, great.
Correct. Yep. Sorry, Adrian, were you? I don't know who was talking. Oh, yes, Adrian. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. I just wanted to suggest a small tweak to the minutes for clarity. And so I'd like to look at the section that's approval of October 13th, 2025 board meeting minutes, and then the part where it says where I requested general amendments. So the way it's written right now, it says I didn't propose specific language, but what I was trying to do in the moment was to ask for guidance on how to edit and frame the language for the need for the correction that I raised. So I appreciate the suggestions that were made during the discussion. I just think it would be more accurate if the minutes reflected I was asking for input, and rather than noting what it didn't include. So the specific language that I would ask would be so that I asked for guidance for specific language for the section on regional plans, and then it flows well.
Okay.
But I will like to say that this has been, yeah. Okay. That I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Right there. Thank you very much.
We'll add that piece to the section that says Adrian Katz requested specific language to the section
Guidance.
labeled
I was
specific
asking
guidance. Sorry, guidance to the section labeled regional plans. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I was asking for guidance for specific language for
Gotcha.
amending the minutes for the section regional plans. And then there was a response from the state librarian from Kathy,
yes,
saying
right.
A suggestion. So that flows well from there.
So I just want to be sure I've captured the language. So the final sentence of the first page of the draft minutes, Adrian Katz requested guidance for specific language
To the section.
in the section labeled
plans.
or to the section.
Sure.
To the section labeled
Well,
regional plans, period. Okay.
Yeah, it has two already
about
in
of?
there. The two is fine. What?
I think of.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The two doesn't seem to be the correct preposition, and I'm sadly not an expert in prepositions, but Adrian Katz requested guidance for specific language in the section labeled regional plans.
I think in sounds
Yes.
good.
Okay.
It doesn't sound
Just
awkward to
wanna-
both of us.
and then that ends that page. There's a period. Okay.
Yeah.
I
And then
I've captured that change.
thank you very
and
much.
there's a section where Linda suggested that Adrian formulate a proposed amendment. And it says that the minutes be brought to the April 24th, 2026 meeting, but it should be 14th.
Yes, that was my suggestion too.
Oh, good.
Good eye. Thank you.
Okay. I think, well, I think that's all I had, but does anyone else have anything else to add or subtract or change?
Looks great.
Okay. All right. So, do we?
You can call for a vote.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a way to word that, but yeah, I'll just call for a vote on that. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, okay. Any opposed? No? Okay, then this motion passes. The minutes for February 10th, 2026 are approved. And then we'll move on to the second, the next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes for our special meeting on March 17th. So I would entertain a motion to approve those.
Approve.
Okay, Linda moved and
Second,
Adrian.
Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer. Okay, sorry with the screen. It's crazy. Okay, so Linda motioned. Jennifer. Sorry, seconded. Any discussion about these minutes? Okay.
I think it's wonderful to see the accessibility with the bullet points and the bolding that helps make things easier to read through, and also having it on a web page. I know that this is something new for the department is doing to provide more inclusivity about who can understand and read the documents. I think that is wonderful. The one thing that we might want to consider in the future, and not necessarily revising these, would be with our agenda, we have numbering, we have Roman numerals, and I'm wondering if the Roman numerals could be matched in here as well. So when we're approving the minutes, we're referring back to, so the two documents align, or numbering, or something to consider for the future. It's not necessarily to recommend these, but that was something I noticed. But otherwise, this is so wonderful to see, and I really appreciate all the work that the board has done on making things more accessible.
Awesome. Good comments, Adrian. Thanks. Okay then, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay. The motion passes. So the minutes from March 17th, 2026 are approved. And we can move on to the per diem, the next agenda item, the per diem process for board members.
Great, thank you. Before, I just want to share a comment on the prior topic, which is to share that Jess Leal had identified and found Robert's Rules minutes guidance document. And so I just wanted to share kudos for Jess for her good work with that, trying to be responsive and capture more of the conversation without, as our dear former chair would say, the minutes becoming hours. So great job, Jess. So moving on to the per diem and mileage reimbursement, I just wanted to be sure that board members, that you're all aware that you're eligible for per diem reimbursements of $50 per day. That's the state's going rate for reimbursement. So on days that we have a Board of Libraries meeting, you can submit for reimbursement for that. And I'll just walk through the procedure with you and then I'll send an email about it. I want to be sure that you're aware of it, especially as we've had Glenn join. And I don't always see reimbursement requests. Some people may be opting not to receive them, but you can receive the $50 per diem for attendance at an online or in-person meeting of the Board of Libraries, or if you are assigned to complete any training as a board member. So for example, some of you have taken CAPS training or the Secretary of State's open meeting law training. So I just wanted to provide you with that information. The one person who may, just because she's a state employee, may not be eligible for the reimbursement is if Adrian were attending on work time, then she wouldn't submit. But so the other thing I just want to fold in, because it's the same form, is that board members, in addition to the per diem, if you do travel, so for example, I think Jennifer had traveled up to Waterbury last year, there is a reimbursement for mileage that's available. So just bear that in mind if we do some traveling this year for our July meeting. Then you are eligible for mileage reimbursement to attend in-person meetings at the state's going rate. The state's going rate isn't much, I'm going to just say it's 20.5 cents per mile. So you would just calculate that based on how many miles you drove. And there is a form. Of course, there's a form. Let me show it to you on the screen just so that you've seen it and are familiar with it. Here it is. So you'll fill out, we'll send you this form by email. You'll fill in your name. You'll fill in your town of residence. You'll leave this Vermont Board of Libraries. And then for each meeting you attend, or training, you would put down the date that it's a meeting, and then the per diem is $50. If you put down reimbursement for travel, you would also add how many miles, and I think it might even auto-populate. Yeah, it auto-populates. But for some reason it then didn't auto-populate over here. So you type that in. It auto-populates down at the bottom. This is not the department's form. Yeah.
Is it a different rate for, it says the mileage rate is like 6.655, and that's what it's auto filling. But I think that's for people. Well, I don't know. I'm just pointing it out.
It might be the different rates. As a state employee, there's a different way to file these expense reports, and I know that there's ways that there's a reduced rate for mileage, and then there's also the full reimbursement.
This might be, you might actually, the 20.5 was the state employee rate, and I thought they were the same, but it may not be the same. So we can look into that. This is the form that we've been using. So we'll just confirm that before we send it out, that the rate is the actual rate. So then you would email this back to us. There is another element though, which is that we need a W-9 on file. So I would recommend that you fill out a W-9, you send it to us, and you can also submit at the same time your first reimbursement form should you wish to be reimbursed. And then we can get you processed. Setting you up in Vision does take a little bit of time, but we've typically been able to figure it out in the end. So if anybody's interested in that, what we'll do is we'll send the whole set of you the information and the forms. And just a note on mandatory training for board members. Sometimes the training requirements will change. My understanding is there's often training required at the beginning of a person's term. And then for most of you, you won't need to take annual training. Lisa does need to do an annual open meeting law training. Glenn, I don't believe you're set up yet in CAPS, which is our training platform. So we will get you set up in CAPS, and then you'll receive some training sessions. Typically, new board members need to take civility and unconscious bias training, diversity and racial equity training, and then also take preventing and addressing sexual harassment in the workplace. So as new people come on, I just like to mention these things so you're not surprised to get this new portal and you wonder why. If it's possible for you to take them all at once, that would save the department money. If you're going to submit for reimbursement, they're not that long, so you could kind of set aside a morning and do them. But if you happen to do them on 3 different days, then there's reimbursement for the time you spent. The thing that is strange is that you get the same per diem reimbursement whether you went to a 12-hour activity or a 30-minute activity. So I just want to mention that to you all as well. It's not an hourly wage, but you're here as largely as a labor of love for libraries. So I just wanted to give you that information. Yes. And really, I should give that information at the annual meeting, but it slipped my mind. So we'll try to remember that for the future.
I think that would be very helpful.
And I'm happy to answer questions.
Question that I would have. So the continuous the CAPS training, that the different sections, do those get updated, do you know, or how often? Because if I took it 2 years ago.
I'm not sure, Adrian. And we ran into issues with your CAPS training too. Sorry, I'm having like a delay, maybe. I didn't mean to talk over you, Adrian.
Oh, totally understand. The gremlins are at it again.
If they do update them and let us know. If the trainings are updated, and there's a new requirement that we learn of, we might ask you, we would probably assign you to take them again. Or if they change the frequency. I know that for state employees, there's a training that we're all taking in April because they updated it and they changed it to an every year frequency. Haven't heard anything about that with regards to the standard trainings for board members yet. Which HR doesn't handle, the governor's office. There's an ethics training that state employees all need to retake. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I think for our
Adrian,
and this may be different. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that we found that for you, it was a little bit complicated as far as me assigning you training once you had the state of Vermont position. So that's something that if we run into that ever, if I need to assign training to you, I might need to interact with someone to get that to happen. There's a little bit of a bureaucratic wrinkle there.
Not totally unexpected.
Well, that was helpful information, Kathy. Yeah, and if anybody has questions, you can reach out to me or if when you get the information from Kathy or Jessica, whoever sends it, that you can question it then. All right, so we can move on to your report, the state librarian report. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I know that some of you may not have had an opportunity to read it because we've been scrambling over here. We've got a lot of activity in the legislature, and so I believe it was posted yesterday. So I'll just go through it from the beginning to the end. You met Justina Soltis earlier in our meeting at the beginning. Justina joined us in the Able Library, and she is a program technician too, and she actually comes to us from the farming community. So she's got a really interesting background, primarily working in vegetable farming. And she began working as a volunteer at the Waterbury Public Library, and we're really excited to have her join us in the department. She's also worked at the circulation desk at the Aldrich Public Library, and we're getting to know her, and our patrons are growing to know her to the extent that they even ask for her when they call the Able Library. So the Able Library patrons get very personalized service, and we're happy to welcome Justina to the team. We've actually done a little bit to clarify roles in the department and to really acknowledge the work that people are doing. And so toward that end, Jess Leal, her position has changed from an executive staff assistant to a principal assistant, which has greater greater responsibilities. And that really reflected work that Jess has already been doing from the department in helping to keep us on the straight and narrow path financially, which is really helpful. We also, for many years, had all of the consultants sort of at the same level, but two of our consultants actually are supervisors and oversee programs and staff. And so we went through a reclassification process for Carolyn Mark, who is the director. Now she is the director of Interlibrary Loan and Government Services, and Carolyn supervises two staff members. And Karen Gravlin, who oversees the Able Library and supervises Justine, and there's a vacant position as well. Karen Gravlin is now the Inclusive Services Director. So that recognizes that there is some additional work and responsibility associated with supervision that the other consultants don't have as part of their regular duties. And it also gives us a little bit more supervisory capacity in our building, which is really helpful to us. So I want to just express congratulations and thanks and appreciation for the staff who have taken on these new roles, which really reflect the work that they were doing already. And I want to express some appreciation for support from the Agency of Administration, and that we really were able to make those changes is great for kind of truing up our actual staffing levels. We have begun hiring for 3 positions, one of them the other vacant position in the Able Library. And we are interviewing folks now for that position. That one, the posting closed on the 25th of March. We also have a consultant for library operations position in library advancement. You'll recall that Kevin Unrath, who has moved over to be a public library director in Williston, had been in that role. We had held it open for quite a long time because of uncertainty about IMLS funding. But as you'll see in the next topic on my agenda, we have more certainty about our IMLS funding, so we're moving forward to fill that consultant position. And the position is posted now. So if you know great librarians with a master's degree in library science who could work really well in the department and help support their colleagues in the field, please let them know that the application is open. And we also are changing things up with our capital projects program. So we are currently hiring a financial manager 3 for the capital projects program. That will help us with the financial reporting aspects and the financial compliance aspects, which are many with our treasury and HUD. So that person will hopefully will find someone through the interview process and bring them on in the coming months to really oversee that program, which has some complex financial aspects, and offer more support. We had a grant specialist position that reported to our grants administration manager position, but through the process we went that we experienced with the audit, we identified that some other teams have different configurations, and so that's why we have landed on this one for that work. So it's a big time for us with hiring, and hopefully we'll have a full team again soon. I wanted to give you a positive update about the Institute of Museum and Library Services Grants to States program. We have received our official notification of the IMLS Library Services and Technology Act Grants to States Award, and that funding makes up approximately 1/3 of the Department of Library's budget each year. And I've signed the assurances, and everything is moving forward as regular. So that is really nice. Of course, there's always something happening with the space of IMLS. And so I've included some information about other recent developments. Unfortunately, the federal administration has again threatened to not fund IMLS in their 2027 budget. I'm hopeful that they will not be successful, that all of the same people who voted to fund the IMLS in Congress will do the same thing again that they just did last year. So I am hopeful that we will continue to receive an annual grants to states allotment and that IMLS will not be wound down. There have been two further updates about the two different court cases that were out there related to the cuts to IMLS last year. You may remember that a coalition of states, including Vermont, sued last year around this time, and they won that lawsuit against the federal government. And then that decision was appealed. Apparently now the federal administration has dropped their appeal of the state's lawsuit. So that is good news, we think, because as we understand it, the court's decision, which was in favor of the coalition of states, will remain in effect. There's a separate lawsuit that was filed last year, which was filed by the American Library Association and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And apparently that lawsuit has been settled. And the settlement is that IMLS will continue awarding grants and operating programs to support libraries and museums. So those are both good news stories about the lawsuits. Kind of a news story about the 2027 budget, but I'm hopeful again that we'll see continuity. So that is the update on things at the federal level. And then at the state level, I know that you're aware of the continued conversation around S232, which is an act relating to public libraries and the Department of Libraries. That bill crossed over from the Senate to the House, and I provided testimony on it to House Education. In the current form, the bill still includes the potential for the department to receive funding from those cannabis sales tax funds, but not a specific amount, not 5% anymore. So the language has changed a little bit. It's sort of a compromise bill at this point that was worked out by the bill sponsor and various folks. It's been very interesting to watch some of these conversations in committees, but the department supports the bill in its current form and is really looking forward to the end of the legislative session because it's sort of been a back and forth and up and down a roller coaster this whole time. I want to share some great news about summer reading. Of course, it is still happening. We always provide resources to public libraries to support their summer reading programs. And this year we have the theme Unearth a Story. There is a component of the National Summer Reading Program that does relate to America's 250th. And the department is continuing its good work. Matt Bradshaw has been really busy and Jonathan Clark has been really busy. Jonathan's been promoting the program and Matt's been processing tons of applications. So we received 154 applications from public libraries for these non-competitive summer reading grants. And this year we're granting out $350 to eligible libraries. And this is a general fund supported program this year. Matt's also been busy wrapping up things with the Courier Grant Program. And what we do with these non-competitive grants is that we really have a lot of back and forth. If people aren't meeting the eligibility requirements, we sort of support them in getting their ducks in a row paperwork wise so that they can receive these non-competitive grants. And I think we still have one courier grant that's working its way through the process at this point, but in the end, we plan to have 116 courier grants sent out to libraries, and those are for the cost of approximately 1/2 of the courier bill for each library for the year. So about $683. We also have a competitive grant that is open right now, which is the Winnie Bell Learned Grant. And we really want libraries to apply for this one. This year, we hope to award 7 grants of $2,500 to public libraries. And the focus that we've recommended that they take is really on the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and Vermont's 250th statehood anniversary, which is coming right up. So we're really trying to encourage folks to apply for this. And we only have a couple of applications so far, but public libraries tend to all apply at once at the 11th hour. That's certainly what we found with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development grants. So I'm pleased to share that we have 59 applications in hand for the HUD Public Facilities Preservation Initiative grant, which closed on the 31st of March. And I can't say much else about it today because we are in the cone of silence as we move through the application review and scoring process. But just know that we are deeply engaged in that work. Jess and Matt are helping out with it a lot. Jeanette's been jumping in to help out with the applications, and Mark is working on it too. So we're just going to keep plugging away, and our hope is that we'll announce those awards in the summer of 2026. And then finally, I don't know if anybody saw WCAX last night, but I had to tell my mom and dad I was on the news. It was me and a group of other people and a little shovel. It was very dramatic. There was some dirt on the ground. We scooped they were in Grand Isle. They really have planned it well. They didn't make us dig into cold earth. They put a lump of dirt there for us so that we really looked strong. And we shoveled away with the messy, muddy field behind us. And the Grand Isle Library, which is a brand new building, is already it's already framed out here. I'll show you my phone. You can see it. It's really exciting. They've already started construction, but it was really wonderful to be there for the groundbreaking. I was joined by my colleague Brian Sewell, who works with Buildings and General Services, and this particular community stacked the department's funds with some funds from the Municipal Energy Resilience Program, or MERP. And Brian and I went all around the state as part of the governor's big ARPA tour when we were trying to get the word out to Vermont communities about all of these ARPA funds. So he and I have heard each other kind of sell these programs around the state. And there was always the question, can we stack these grants? And in this case, they actually listened and they stacked, and it's really kind of cool. And we were happy to be up there together. It felt like the gang was back together. So we each shoveled, and then little children shoveled, and it was very sweet. It was really nice to hear the select board member who spoke talk about the library and about what it will be for the community. And I kept having to adjust my comments because he was saying the same things I was about to say. You know, the library is the heartbeat of the community. The select board member said that, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, how great that he gets it. And then the board member who spoke, the board chair, Howard, really talked about his lifelong relationship with libraries and how much libraries mean to him. And it was a very nice opportunity. And we'll have more of those, I hope. Brattleboro broke ground, I think not this past Monday, but the prior Monday. Actually, they may have broken ground yesterday as well, now that I think about it. I was up in Brattleboro for a meeting, and they were saying that they were doing a ceremonial groundbreaking, I think today or yesterday. Mark and I were supposed to go up to the Leach Library, but if you'll remember a few Fridays ago, there was this really intense snowstorm up in the kingdom, and we chickened out, which I was glad of because all sorts of vehicles were going off the road, so I think I made the right call in sending my remarks. So we missed that one, but we're really excited to have so many projects in flight right now. I know that we've got the Wilder Library where they've gotten all of their base funds and they're now potentially moving over to getting their contingency funds. We've distributed $5.75 million to subrecipients, so we're about 35% of the total funding. 2 of the projects have completed, that's Hardwick and Brandon. And all 14 have successfully received some money back from us at this point, which is good because a couple of them were sort of saving invoices up. And so we're seeing all of them at this point really going full speed ahead. So I think we'll have some more opportunities to visit libraries as they open. And I think with the reopening activities, and we always ask libraries to let us know about groundbreakings and reopenings, but I would be happy to share out those opening activities with the board so that you all could participate in those community moments. It's really amazing to see people rallying around their libraries, even on a cold, rainy day. So we're pretty excited about what's happening. We are hearing from folks that costs are coming in are running really high compared to what they had anticipated. So in some cases, libraries are reducing the scope of what they plan to get done. And we're talking with them about really focusing on the core components that support the grant's intention of internet access being increased and telehealth and education and workforce development. But I think overall, we're seeing that things are happening that are really supporting those public library goals in Vermont. So it's pretty exciting. And that is my report for today. I'm happy to take any questions or hear your feedback.
I think it would be great if you could share the locations and times and things of. I would love to attend something, in my general area. So thank you. That was really encouraging news about the IMLS, at least right now.
Yeah.
Adrian. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Bye. So in terms of visiting libraries, certainly board members can carpool, just not more than the quorum, but making that possible. It was really wonderful. So 2 comments. So really wonderful to hear about the Grand Isle Free Library and hearing about the behind the scenes, about the remarks that folks made, the connections to the community, heartwarming. It's wonderful to see that. And then also to hear about the publicity that's out there, the Channel 3 story. Excuse me. That hearing that and seeing that's out there may inspire other projects. So that was great to see the photo. And then on a personal note, that it was great to see that project because that project came through the Act 250 office through the Land Use Review Board, and that was one of the projects that I was able to help organize all the exhibits, arrange, describe, arrange, and then distribute out the information. So if anyone wants to see, for example, any of the plans or any of those exhibits, that's all on our public database that you can look up. There are other projects from the libraries that may come through our office, whether for an opinion of their project being jurisdictional to Act 250 or not, or so some libraries have come through various district offices. But I had one last comment, or if Linda is going to speak about the library piece, maybe we can keep in the same stream of thought because I was going to bring up something else.
I wanted to share something too. Oh, sorry, Linda.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just popped some links into the chat. I wanted to be sure you're aware of a really kind of fun project that that Lily Talbert has been working on in the department. So as each of our subrecipients finishes up, we have an interview with them and we share the information in our newsletter, but we also keep it posted on the website. And so some of you may not have noticed these before. So I just wanted to call your attention to the article. It's kind of like a magazine spread type of an article on Brandon and also on Judavine. For more feels, all the feels are here in these little articles, I think. So
Did you say they're also on the website as well? Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Linda.
No, I was just going to say that, there were lots of applications for these grants, the HUD grant and then the earlier grant. 14 libraries got, and our library was lucky enough to be one of them. And by the way, will be the deadline, the completion date keeps sliding, of course, as these things happen. But right now we're looking at maybe mid-May, but anyway, which is very exciting for us. But what I was going to say is that there are several libraries who had great projects and got grants, but there were lots of libraries that didn't get grants that wanted to do projects. And I'm hopeful that the publicity about the successful libraries and the ones that have opened new facilities will stimulate more interest in libraries. The more publicity we have about the need for renovations and improvements in libraries around the state, particularly the really rural ones, that, as Kathy says, they can be the center of a community, particularly as our schools are changing nature. And the school used to be the heartbeat of a community, but as those schools change, as the demographics change, the library could potentially be that center of community. And the more support we give to those small libraries around the state, the better it is. So Kathy, your department's publicity about these projects, WCAX, wonderful. The more publicity we can get about the improvements that are being made to libraries, the better off we'll all be.
yeah, I definitely see what you're talking about, Linda, with that focus on these building projects seems to spur more communities to want to improve their libraries. And I see that really clearly looking up in the islands. The South Hero Worthern Library was built, and everyone started looking at it like, wait, they have this thing. How did they do it? And so I've talked with a bunch of different libraries. It's sort of like keeping up with the Joneses library style. And I feel like it's too bad that we don't have many more dollars to grant. And what we've seen is when people kind of thought about the project and applied for our project funds for our grant awards, and for other grant awards, they didn't want to let go of the idea. And so we've seen libraries that identified issues and are moving forward. And some of the biggest libraries in the state, like the Fletcher Free, they didn't get any funding from us, or Ilsley Library didn't get any funding from us down in Middlebury, but they are doing amazing projects. And Dorothy Alling as well, they've really planned great library programs. And so I don't want to take any credit for projects we don't fund, but I think that there is this appetite around the state to improve library buildings, and we're happy to be a small part of that. Winooski too, that's another one where they plowed ahead with their project, and that's a much needed library facility improvement.
Glenn?
Yeah, and it's also a really difficult time. I know from the initial conception at Fletcher Free in Burlington, their capital improvement project has almost doubled in price since they did their first study. And that's not because they added a bunch of things. It's just the cost of doing these renovations has spiraled. And there's not a lot that's the state, or we certainly can do, and the state has the school building. There's a lot of infrastructure out there that's in the same position. So thinking about strategies for how to encourage local initiatives and finding alternative sources of funding is really critical. I just wanted to add that next week is National Library Week. And I don't know, Kathy, if there are any special events or things that the department is doing, and is there anything that we can amplify through our networks as well? Just taking opportunity to piggyback on that.
Yeah, one big thing that the department's participating in next week is that we're joining colleagues from the Vermont Library Association and the Vermont School Library Association at the State House for Library Legislative Day at the State House. And I will be reading Chicken Story Time to the children of Montpelier on the State House steps, I think at 10 o'clock. So yeah, if anybody wants to come and run through making chicken noises, that would mean that fewer of our staff are going to have that other duty as assigned. So I'm teasing, I wouldn't make people do that. I will make a fool of myself, but I don't tend to make the staff do that. I hope.
Adrienne?
So I was really happy to see in the state librarian's report about the reclassification of the staff and to acknowledge the work that they are doing, and from complex financial management to supervision. And that's not just exciting for the staff, which I'm sure are thrilled with the accuracy of the rules, but also it's great for congratulations, Kathy, and to the department for doing that, because that process is, I've heard, not easy. And to persevere and to have that be a success is something to be acknowledged. So and grateful to the agency of administration to work with the department to achieve that, so that staff are acknowledged, but also identified in a more accurate way. So I just really say kudos for that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I want to give credit where credit is due. And one of the things that I don't think many people know is that Tom McMurdo, Assistant State Librarian for Library Advance, not for Library Advancement, for Info and Access, Tom is the head of the Agency of Administration's Classification Committee. So in addition to everything he does in the department, he also is a leader among colleagues and works every month, at least once a month, they have a very lengthy meeting and they evaluate all of the requests for reclassification. So when it came to our own positions, we had an expert on hand to help us, and Tom really knows what a successful application looks like. And so he shepherded that for us, which I really appreciated. So right now I'm 3 for 3 with reclass requests, which is pretty impressive, but I think it's actually Tom who gets the credit. So
That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, kudos to Tom.
For sure. Well, I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. So if there are no more, oh, Glenn.
Kathy, I just want to really encourage you and the staff to anything that we can amplify, that as in between meetings. I do try to read the weekly resource pieces that come out from the department, which are really great, and this continuing ed communications. So sometimes I miss things though, and so particularly like Library Day at the State House, any kind of those special events, any news blurbs that happen. I mean, I think I'm certainly willing to, through my networks, try to amplify and put things out. I think that's certainly one of the things that we're all excited about, is however we can promote the work of the department, but also just generally the excitement that's happening out there in the library community. It's good for us to know, just in terms of our thinking, but also work that we can do to in any way support amplifying those messages.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted.
2026. I'm still figuring out muting and unmuting. I appreciate your offer to help amplify things, and we can send this out separately, but I just popped the link for our recruitment of the library consultant for library operations position into the chat for you all.
Great. Thanks for doing that. Okay. If there's no more comments, I think we're at the end of our meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Non-debatable motion.
So moved.
Jennifer, okay, and we have a second.
I'll second.
Glenn, okay. And seconded. The meeting is adjourned. All in favor? Jeez. All in favor. Okay. We are, any opposed? No. Okay, motion passes. We're adjourned at 11:38.
So what, our
Thank
next
you.
meeting?